So children, yesterday we had done chapter 1 of the time machine. Today we're going to begin with chapter 2. So in chapter 1, we see how the time traveler gets all the cream of the society, the place, Richmond, where he was living, the mayor, the philosopher, the journalist, doctor, the eminent personalities of the town were there in his house, and he calls them over for dinner. And he, including the narrator, his name was Hillier, and he calls them and tells them about the time machine and shows them a miniature time machine. One of the guests pushes the lever of the miniature time machine, and it disappears. So we have reached so far. Now, in the second chapter, the narrator says that the time traveler's audience remained skeptical of the time traveler, who always seems too clever and mysterious. Here, these people are because in the chapter, the narrator had once met one of the members of that dinner party, and they had talked to each other for a while, and they had discussed whether they should believe what the time traveler told them about the time machine or not. So they were still skeptical. Okay, they did not believe him. Okay, because the time traveler was a little bit mysterious, he was clever, so they did not know whether to completely believe it or not. And but he was so clever, he had a good reputation, so he felt that maybe he could be right also. The rest of them, they do not discuss time traveling until they reconvene. Convene is to meet. So when they meet next Thursday, till that time they don't talk about it. Now, the time traveler had invited them. He had told them to come for dinner, again at 8, and be here on Thursday. But when they all reached home, they realized that the time traveler is absent. He's not there at home. And he has left a note for these men. And he has said, in case I'm late, please start eating without me. Okay, so by 7, if I'm not there, you can start eating. So the new group, now the new group, there are some people who were there in the old group. Some people from the old group are present. They have come today. Okay, the others have come. So the new group consists of the psychologist, the medical man, an editor, a journalist, and a silent man. Now the narrator doesn't know the name of this person, so he calls him the silent man. As they discuss time travel, the time traveler enters, dirty, disheveled, limping. Now, when he entered, these people were shocked to see the time traveler in that state. It was as if he was in a fight, in a brawl, okay? And he was hurt. There were blood stains on his clothes, and he was limping. The shoe were missing. One of the shoes was missing, and he was looking very tired and as if he hadn't slept, for a long time. So he enters. He tells them that I want to just clean up, okay, and then you eat. They were eating at this time, so he says, you continue eating. Just leave some mutton and some wine for me, and I'm going to come back after cleaning up. So he leaves to clean up, then returns, devours, hungrily, he was eating and grateful to be eating meat again. He admits he has been time traveling, but reveals little else until he's finished eating. So these people had to wait for an explanation. He says, I had been time traveling, but then he was eating, devouring the food like anything, as if he had been starving all these days. And he says, I'm glad to be eating mutton again. That means he did not get to eat his, his favorite food for so long. And then he says later on, once let me eat to my heart's content, then I'm going to tell you the story of these 8 days where I was all these 8 days. And I had been in future. So the narrator feels he is unable to communicate adequately the time traveler's storytelling ability, though he transcribes his words verbatim. So the narrator will now be telling us what the time traveler had related to these people. See, these two chapters are the exponential chapters. That means in these chapters, the framework is made what is going to happen. From the third chapter onwards, the exact story begins, the exact plot begins. Like the time traveler reaches some place, describes that place, the kind of people, and then the adventures that he gets into in that place. So whatever will follow now from the third chapter onwards, that we will be doing after the holidays, that is the exact account of the things that the time traveler went through during his futuristic time travel. Now the narrator tells us that I am going to relate to you, although the way he expresses it, I cannot express it that way. I cannot express that the things that way, but I'm trying to tell you verbatim. Verbatim matlab word to word. So I am telling you verbatim what he told me. So the version of the story hasn't changed. But in spite of that, he says the way he said it to us, I do not know if that can be conveyed through these words that I'm telling you. Now the remaining chapters all consist of this. The time traveler's encounter with the Eloise, later on his meeting the Morlocks, and how the Morlocks they pull out one of his shoe. He enters this the well, and they all live underground. And how he loses one shoe because he ventured into that well, and how then he he knew that these people come and hunt and take the Eloise at night, and how his time machine goes missing, and then he realizes how these people cannot stand fire. They are blinded by the light. They cannot see in the daytime at all. How he comes to know all this. So this is a picture of his last encounter, where he lights a fire to put them away, and how he was just about to be killed and all that. So this is the story, okay, of his adventures that will begin from chapter 3. Now we will analyze what is there in chapter 2. This is the story. Okay, this is what had happened. Okay, in short, this is what had happened in chapter 2. Now this short chapter serves to establish the mystery of the time traveler's adventures. The mystery of the time traveler's adventures means, what had happened. The curiosity is aroused in the reader in the second chapter. See, in the first chapter, the curiosity is aroused that there is some time travel that will take place. In chapter 2, the time travel has already taken place. And now through the narrator's account, we will know what exactly happened. Okay. So now there are some questions which arise in our minds. Why is he so ragged? What has happened to him? What has he gone through? Why is his clothes torn and he's all dirty and he's hungry, and what has happened? Why is he so ravenous for meat? And further, ingrain the state of Victorian luxury and advancement. So these two things are brought close together. One, his the state that he is in, and then again we are brought to the Victorian luxury. How the people are dining on mutton and wine, and new specialized professionals have been added. Who are they? The editor and the journalist. And Wells has used a bit of humor here. The editor is called Blank and the journalist is called Dash. And what does he mean? That actually their professions are, they come to their of no account. Okay, that means they're not doing anything revolutionary. That is why they're just blank and dash. That means if blank and dash is put when something is left out, and even if it is left out, it won't make any difference. So that is what the writer is trying to tell us, his own views here. So the narrator distances himself from the time traveler by confessing to his inability to communicate the intensity of the time traveler's voice. Because see, there is a lot of intensity in the time traveler's voice. Why? Because he has gone through an extraordinary experience, an extraordinary adventure, something that he has never done before. And that is why he says that I cannot communicate the intensity in his voice. And through this distancing, Wells accomplishes two tasks. There are two things that Wells, that is the writer, he wants to do. What are they? First, the time traveler's exploits, his adventures are more plausible to his audience. The narrator and the men have been skeptical all along, much as Wells' audience would be. Okay. Firstly, he makes the time traveler's adventures seem more possible to us. Plausible matlab believable, more credible. Why? Because of his emotions. Okay. Because of the intensity in his voice, the way he's speaking, you know that yes, it's not, a person cannot become so passionate until and unless something has really happened to him. So it makes it a little more plausible. And at the same time, the narrator has been, because the reason why we have been slightly unbelieving like the other people in the time traveler's house. So he wants to make it as believable as possible. That is why. Now, Wells aligns himself with the time traveler. Now, whatever he says, the time traveler says, is said by the writer. Okay, the narrator distances himself, but now Wells is the time traveler. That is, the author is the time traveler. In other words, he is the true time traveler and will forecast human future much as the time traveler does. Now, what is Wells doing here? H.G. Wells is forecasting, telling us what is the future of humanity going to be according to his perceptions. And he is using the time traveler to tell us what he thinks. Okay. Now, there is a lot that the time traveler tells us about the future humans. We will read it, we will come to know as and when we go through the chapters. The story is told brilliantly, and every logic that he gives us, we are going to find it so believable, let me tell you, that in spite of whatever belief we have had so far, this will, this will definitely become one of the possibilities. And till today, okay, this novel was, you can say almost a century ago it was written down. Still, we haven't come far. We have come far from it. Okay, we have made a lot of advancement, but in spite of that, there are so many things that when you think of the state in future, the condition of the people in future, you say, no wonder it can happen this way. This is how it will happen. It can happen. Okay, so this is one of the possibilities. Now there is one piece of logical confusion in the chapter. And what is that? If the time traveler has a time traveling machine, why would he show up to dinner late? In other words, why not go back in time just a little bit more so when dinner starts? So it suggests that the time traveler does not have perfect control over the time machine, and that his adventures have not been flawless exercises. Now, the people may think that he's traveling in time. So when he arrived at 8 o'clock, why can't he go back and set the time in such a way that he can arrive at 7 o'clock, right? So this tells us that even while the time traveler is traveling in time, he does not have perfect control over the time machine, and there has been some flaw, some kind of problem in his time traveling adventure also. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 2. Now is the time for discussions. I want you all to raise your hand and say something about the story so far. What do you feel? And one question now I have here for you. We haven't read chapter 3 right now, and I want you people to try and think, if you can guess, like in a few sentences, that what do you think the time traveler had gone through, what had happened, or why was he in this state? Why did he? Why was he ravenous for meat? So why do you think this happened? Okay, anything about the if you can like forecast what will happen in the next chapters of the story. So whoever is ready to speak, they can raise their hands. Harshil, you have something to say, Harshil? Yes, Harshil. Harshil, I had unmuted you, but you're not saying anything. Yes, Jigyasa, you want to add something to it?
Ma'am, actually, I've read the chapter.
Which chapter have you read?
Ma'am, I've read the whole book.
You read? You
Yes,
already
ma'am,
read
I had.
it? When did you
Yes,
read
ma'am.
it, Beta?
Ma'am, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, great! Because you know that it was in the syllabus, so you read it. Good. So you have a hard copy, or did you read it? Read the soft copy, the PDF.
Ma'am, the hard copy.
Okay, you had it at home. All right. Okay, so that is great. Did you like it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because see, the first two chapters are little difficult to, understand. As you must have also understood, there are a lot of theories and concepts and all discussed, and the children can feel overwhelmed. So I used the summary to go through these two chapters. and from chapter 3 onwards, I'll try to read as many important portions from the text itself. Great. So, anyone else who can frame some kind of an idea about the time travel, about the adventures of the time traveler? Yes, Shriman?
Ma'am, I think he would go in the scale of geological time.
He will go where?
I'm in geologic time.
Okay. Geologic. So you're saying, beta, sorry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So which era is that?
Ma'am, the era of dwarfs.
Dwarfs. Okay. Okay. Great.
Ma'am, and nothing else.
Okay. So, one question. I want to see how observant you all have been. I had showed you the characters and the setting of the story through a lot of pictures. Okay. Now, the time traveler comes after 8 days and he devours meat. What do you think um, made him do that? Why did he do it? Any guesses? Krishnanshu, you want to answer? Yes. Why do you think the time traveler was ravenous for food? For meat, actually, for mutton. Harshil. Yes, beta. Yes, Harshil. I can't hear you, Harshil. Okay, I'll tell you. You remember this when I had told you about the Eloi? See, they did not know the skill of cooking food. And the Eloi with whom the time traveler spent the most part of these 8 days, they were purely vegetarians and they did not even cook food, and they did not know how to use fire to their advantage. They did not lit fires to keep away the Morlocks. They were completely like children. Okay, they were just living and spending their day eating and sleeping at night. One or two of them, some people missing at night, and that would be it. So they were like, you could say that they were like animals in the shape of humans. And see, this is the food that they were having. Okay, so whatever there is, they are eating it raw. All right, and that is why, because of these raw fruits and vegetables, whatever they were having, the time traveler was able to keep his like body and soul together. He was able to live. He did not starve. But then there was one problem, that meat was an essential part of his diet and he did not get meat to eat. Okay, this was the reason why he was ravenous, and he said, I missed wheat and I missed wine and all, because all this was not available where he was living. Now, anything else, any remarkable thing that the time traveler's state, the state that he is in at the moment, that tells you anything that you can decipher about the time travel from the state that he is in when he comes? Yes, children? Anything that you can predict on the basis? See, the description that is given is, the description that is given is, it's not here in the summary, but the description tells us that his clothes were torn, his hair was disheveled, he looked as if he had been in a fight, he was limping, and when the narrator noticed his feet, he saw that, one shoe was missing because one shoe was lost and he had to go around. So what else can you, predict from this state? What kind of an adventure he had been in? All right. Now, the time for character sketching. From chapter 1 and 2, whatever we have come to know of the time traveler, from these two chapters, whatever you have, heard, and whatever we have read so far, give one adjective for the time traveler, okay? And also tell me the reason, whatever you are saying, okay? One adjective you can give for him, and you also have to say why you are saying though. So, see, there are a lot of time travelers character sketch is very important, okay? One of the most important questions that are framed on this novel. But we have to go on adding to the characteristics as we come to know more about him. But so far, we have been introduced, so at least we have formed some kind of an impression about the time traveler. So what is that? Please raise your hands, think of one adjective and justify it. Tell me why you think so. Yes, children? Yes, Mohak? Mohak, I want you to tell me one adjective and justify it. Yes, Mohak, can you hear me?
पहली लाइन आती है?
Yes. Abir, answer the question. Agrim, you are also next. Yes, Abir. Yes, Abir. Agrim, be ready with an answer. Kanishka. Yes, beta. Yes, Kanishka. Okay. Hardly any answers from you all. So we can say, from whatever we know about the time traveler, we can call the time traveler, describe him as logical. Why? Because he um, he has a logic for what he has accomplished. Okay, and there is logic behind it, and on the basis of his logic, he had been able to, you know, think, have a novel idea. And innovation is only possible when somebody is logical, and he has been able to prove it also. Second point is, the time traveler is knowledgeable, because as we have seen, he answers the questions, solves the doubts of the people present very, very well. He has knowledge. Okay. Third is, he is not autocratic by nature. That means he is not imposing whatever he knows on these people. He has called all of them together. He is ready to listen to them, and then he gives he uh, his ideas and opinions. So he did not bring out, because see, the time machine was ready, it was right there, and he knew it was working, but he wanted to go by the correct the procedure. He did not want to just bring it in front of them and just, you know, do it as a trickery in front of them. He wanted to tell them that this is not trickery. He wanted to tell them that this is scientific logic behind it, because he did not, it must have taken a long time to even build that small miniature time machine. So he did not want it to go waste. He wanted them to understand first the logic, and then he wanted to, you know, give them a demonstration of it. So he was a scientific person, logical person. He was logical. Okay, he was knowledgeable. Okay, democratic by nature, because he called everyone. Okay, and he wanted people from all walks of life. He did not, he could have just called 5 scientists and spoken to them. No, he knew that this invention is going to affect the all the people from, you know, all walks of life. That is why he called different kind of experts to understand this. And he was clever also. He did not call a common man. He did not share this idea with his butler, because he knew that somebody who has brains, who can understand the various theories, they are the only ones to whom he can put his um, idea across. Okay, so this is the reason why the time traveler had chosen these people and had shared the idea with them. Now, in these 2 chapters, the writer also uses this meeting as a device to introduce us to the time traveler and his time machine. See, the other characters are secondary. They are all called minor characters because they do not play a vital role in the plot. But the narrator and the time traveler, they are important characters. The narrator is the link between the time traveler and the audience, and between the writer and the audience, between H.G. Wells and us. That is why the narrator is also important. Moreover, the narrator is the one who is the witness of a very important um, sequence in the story, okay, which comes very late in the story. So that is why the narrator is important. So with this, we end today's class. Tomorrow, I'm going to come up with one more interesting presentation for you all, and hope to see you all tomorrow. And till that time, you should again go through, if you can go through, lay your hands on a PDF of this novel. I do not want you to read the entire novel at once if you cannot do that, but just go through the chapters that we have done, chapter 1 and 2, and if there's anything that you want to understand, please feel free to ask me. Okay, so thank you, children. Goodbye.